In 1991, the US faced off against a heavily fortified Iraqi army over 1 million men strong. It was a powerful mechanized force, the fourth largest standing army in the world, equipped with thousands of Soviet-made battle tanks and ballistic missiles. Most predicted 3,000 American dead in the first week of combat operations alone. Instead, in just over a month, the US-led coalition achieved a military miracle. How? Technological overmatch built on the back of semiconductors. US forces killed their adversaries miles before they could return fire, using new advancements in thermal optics and laser-guided targeted systems. Innovations like GPS and satellite surveillance became symbols of America's technological supremacy. The Gulf War is a paradigmatic example of a revolution in military affairs, a period when technological advancements fundamentally changed the nature of war. More than 30 years later, leaders in both Beijing and Washington once again believe that the next generation of semiconductors will drive an enormous breakthrough, and they're racing to do everything they can to make sure that their country comes out ahead. Following America's victory in the Gulf War, Beijing saw just how vulnerable their backward military was. To avoid the same fate, China's leaders embraced the role of technology as the deciding factor in tomorrow's conflicts. It's a simple theory, really. The first country to reach the next revolution in military affairs would become the next superpower, just as the advent of machine guns rendered the era of cavalry charges obsolete. At the very least, no great power wants to be left behind. So, China's successive waves of military modernization since the 1990s have been guided by this principle, which places technology at the center of national security. By examining open-source Chinese language writing on these defense issues, you can see how technology has made its way into the center of China's national security policies. In the 2000s, the PLA pursued informatization, 信息化, of its armed forces, adopting information technology to augment weapon systems. This is the present ongoing process that is closely modeled on catching up with the abilities of the US today. Yet at the same time, PLA strategists are now seeking to pursue what it calls an intelligentized military. It sounds better in Chinese, which entails adopting AI technology for use in autonomous weapons, information processing, electronic warfare, and even cognitive warfare. So what does that mean in practice? Imagine a world where frontline troops are largely replaced by swarms of intelligent autonomous drones armed with precision bombs. Commanders can make decisions at breakneck speed, assisted by AI operating on super-fast quantum computers, which can rapidly process evolving battlefield information and present the best possible options. By the time you meet your opponent in battle, their will to fight will have already been eroded by AI-powered psychological operations, cognitive warfare, shaping the narrative of conflict to your advantage. So what's the core driver of this new age of intelligent warfare? Semiconductors. This is the key choke point that the US has settled on to try to hold the PLA at bay. To understand why semiconductors are so important, we have to look at a new wave of emerging technologies on the horizon to understand what they'll be able to power. The story, of course, begins with the chips themselves. They power everything in our modern world, from cars and computers to drones and intercontinental missiles. While the industry was invented in America, today supply chains are thinly stretched across the globe where production is made most efficient. As a result, the manufacturing of most advanced chips is concentrated in Taiwan and South Korea. It's an industry marked by tight bottlenecks and long lead times. Standard semiconductors take 4 months from start to finish, with more advanced chips potentially taking twice as long to make. Don't make enough chips, and you end in a devastating shortage. Make too many, and you might just put yourself out of business. Given these constraints, US leaders believe massive government intervention is necessary to secure the commercial and military future that the next generation of emerging technologies like AI and the chips that power them promise. From the Chinese point of view, it's clear that Chinese leadership shares similar goals and concerns on the national security implications of semiconductor chips. Over the past decade, Beijing has invested over $200 billion into building up domestic capacity to prepare itself for the new age. And before 2022, Chinese leaders in logic and memory were poised to catch up with the state-of-the-art coming out of Taiwan, South Korea, and the US. But the US wasn't about to lose the race without putting up a fight. On September 16, 2022, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan delivered a speech that will define the future of America's grand strategy to China.
On export controls, we have to revisit the long-standing premise of maintaining relative advantages over competitors in certain key technologies. You see, we previously maintained a sliding scale approach that said we need to stay only a couple of generations ahead, but that is not the strategic environment we're in today. Given the foundational nature of certain technologies, such as advanced logic and memory chips, we have to maintain as large a lead as possible.
A month later, the United States Department of Commerce announced a sweeping ban on the export of advanced semiconductor chips to China, alongside restrictions on other key technologies vital to the development of such computer chips, like design software and manufacturing equipment. Meanwhile, on the home front, Congress passed the CHIPS and Science Act, a $50 billion investment in domestic semiconductor manufacturing. Overall, this is more than what it took to fund the Manhattan Project. Almost instantly, it got exponentially harder for it to make its own advanced chips. Huawei, the telecom giant, saw its revenue drop nearly 70% in 2022. Leading Chinese manufacturer SMIC, cut off from EUV lithography, now has a much harder road to compete with NVIDIA's AI accelerators, for example. It has to rely on much older DUV technology. Meanwhile, at home, the CHIPS Act seems to be working. Leading-edge manufacturing is returning to the US, with big investments announced by TSMC, Samsung, and Intel. But to be clear, there is nothing inevitable or guaranteed about the impact of semiconductors that the China are so focused on. As much as the Ukraine war has been a testing ground for emerging technologies, it has also shown that conventional elements of warfare remain as relevant as ever, like the number of shells a country is bringing to the battle, or the number of men it can mobilize. There's also a real risk that the allure of technology comes to be seen as a silver bullet that could cause either the US or China to make miscalculations in the realm of deterrence. For every successful example of a technological revolution, there are also examples of misplaced faith in technologies that gave way to hubris and disaster. But if there's even a small chance that the new wave of AI technologies represent an opportunity to reshape our fabric in the modern world, and the chances are much better than that, what price wouldn't you pay to have a seat at the table? The first movers in a technological revolution have the chance to become the principal architects of the future. And then the pursuit of zero-sum win-lose confrontation is the next logical step. So the next time you see semiconductors in the news, take a look. It's a lot more important than it sounds. After all, the future is quite literally at stake. Thanks so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast and newsletter. Just search ChinaTalk, one word.